Hi all. So I am an anatomy and physiology professor at Metropolitan State University, which is in St. Paul. Our demographic, so as educators, we always like to talk about that, right? I work with returning adult students primarily. The average age is about 28. It's a little younger in A&P, and we're a minority serving institution. So I got involved with Visible Body several years ago. I think I was actually one of the first beta testers for courseware. And it was because I had some students that were struggling and I was trying to figure out ways to help them, and the apps kind of had gotten on my radar. And I told the students, well, why don't you try this and just see, let me know what you think. And it ended up wonderful. Their grades got way better. And we just hit a point where the students that were downloading the app were doing so much better than the other students that we said, well, let's get rid of our textbook. Let's use Visible Body. And let's just completely embrace this. And we have. And since then, our DFW rates, so basically students receiving no credit for the course, has gone down from 30 to 35% down into that like 15% range. In some semesters, we do even better than that. So it's been really, really, really exciting to see students retained. But of course, all of that was in person until March. And so, what do you do online? And this was something kind of terrifying, I think, for all of us who had to make that switch, right? So I can kind of walk you through a couple of the things that I've done and how my course looks. And I can tell you a couple things that I would do. So I guess the easiest thing to do is share my screen. Let's see if I can do that. All right. There we go. So you should be looking here. This is my A&P2 course. And I've sort of got everything arranged in modules. And I really like to do that just because it keeps it in little defined boxes. And once they finish a box, they're pretty happy students. If we go to an example of, I don't know why, but I picked urinary as my example earlier when I was putting things together. I've got a bunch of things in here, but I'm going to tell you about the important ones. So one of the things I love to do, because I have a lot of information that comes at students very fast when I lecture or when I'm doing video. I did what do they call it? I did like a hybrid course. So I did video with the students where that was my lectures, and then we would meet one day a week and just kind of review everything they'd done and talk about what they need to do. So to kind of keep them on track in the videos, I've got guided notes, and these are something I know at least are available in one of the sample courses on Visible Body because it's what they were written for. The cool thing about these is that they are Word documents that you can edit, and you can kind of edit them down to be what you want. If there's something you want to cover that didn't, oh, okay. There it is. If it's something you want to cover that you didn't cover, that I didn't write into the guided notes or whatever, you can do that. And this is something I love giving to other instructors too, as we increase our course offerings. So these start out with what are the big ideas? So what does the system do? And then it just walks the students through what would be my lecture, but it's a lot of questions. And it's like, these are the things that you should look at, and these are the things you should do. Because one of the things I learned fairly early on is that students have a really hard time self-directing, and that you have to kind of give them some amount of information about, okay, this is what you need to be doing here, and how to make this thing work properly. So one thing I have done, and apparently not in this version of these notes, is I've actually written in, this is the exact thing you should be looking at in visible body right now. These correspond roughly to my lectures. And then one thing the students will do is they'll say, okay, you've got this question on those notes and I don't know the answer. And it gives us something to say. Oh, so the guided notes, long story short, there is a set in, I wrote a sample course for visible body, and there is a set in that sample course, and I was pretty adamant that they were Word documents because, you know, when you get stock stuff from people and you can't change it, it's never what you want. And I'm a big fan of it has to be what I want. So these are completely customizable. One of the cool things that Visible Body was able to do with them is these, this links to Atlas. So if they're looking at the guided notes and they've downloaded them on their device and they click this link, it's going to open that image in Atlas right away. So it's very, very seamless. And like I said, you have those, and we did them for the whole 2-semester course. But now they've got a lot more courses. So, but it was in their 2-semester sample course. And so you should have it for all units. And I do a special unit on anatomical terminology as well. So you'll have notes that correspond to stuff that's not on visible body, but I think that's okay. One of my favorite things about it as a software is, as instructors, we can add whatever we want to it to make it what we want, but we're not editing constantly. I feel like it doesn't have the barrage of information. So going back to my course, there we go. So they always start with the guided notes. Sometimes what I do is Visible Body has these labs that walk students through a system, and those are pretty fantastic. And so sometimes I'll look at that and I'll be like, okay, this is really close to what I'm teaching the students. I usually don't use every single one because I feel like if you do, it's a bit much, like it can overwhelm the student. But I'll put them in there and say, hey, it's for practice. It's not graded, but here it is for you. I did assign one of them and grade it, and I can show you that too. I actually used courseware to auto grade the post lab questions, which was amazing because then I had a lot less work to do, and you know, we're always looking for ways to decrease our work, right? So then I've got these little modules, and I know it looks like a lot of information, but my goal was to break it into little chunks. The reason is I work with students who are adults, they're returning to school, and a lot of them are just under constant interruption of kids and all these other things that a lot of us right now find ourselves dealing with. So to me, I wanted to have each little chunk be, you know, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, because then they know, oh, I don't have to sit down for 3 hours and study. That's not what we want them to do anyways. They know that they can sit down for a small time. So this is the first thing, which is just sort of a urinary system overview. And it was just to get them sort of like identify, label the parts, and kind of understand why we pee. And then beyond that, the next module is then, of course, the zoom in of the kidney. So where are the kidneys and what is the physical anatomy of the kidney? And this looks more at the gross structures, the pyramids, the calyces, that sort of stuff. And then they have a quiz, and we just call them knowledge checks. In my course, we had a lot of knowledge checks. So I basically had a knowledge check for what I expected the students to do for each lecture. And then we had a big unit end quiz. So when we finish urinary, they'd have a huge urinary quiz. The big quiz was worth 5 points. The little quizzes are 1 point, and they can take them multiple times to reach the proficiency that they want. And they're usually like 4 or 5 questions. I put them in a pool so that it's not super easy. They can't just memorize the 4 or 5 questions, but that way it doesn't take them a lot of time, and I don't have to deal with, you know, students complaining that their computer crashed or whatever horrible thing happened. So I like to do that. And then, you know, it kind of keeps going through again a little bit more. So this is about nephrons, and then a knowledge check on nephrons, and then urine storage and elimination, which I call make and pee. And then they have a knowledge check on that. And then here's the urinary end quiz. I do post the entire unit in the A&P app online because I find that they want to go through it like that anyways, and a lot of them want to just use courseware. They don't want to use the app on its own. So I try to allow them to do either. I try to say, okay, here are the modules that you're going to use to answer these questions in the guided notes, and here's this. I think what I would do differently now is basically put a little page break in for those knowledge checks and be like, okay, take a quiz in those guided notes. Oh, sure, you can see a sample of a knowledge check. They're pretty simple. You're probably gonna laugh. But my goal was just to get the students kind of feeling some level of proficiency and that they're moving forward. It actually helped in this weird way with the fact that it helped because I could see who wasn't doing them. So the knowledge check deadlines were very soft, but I could see who was falling behind. And then I could reach out to that student and say, hey, you're falling behind. What's going on? Right now in sort of COVID time with everything being crazy, a lot of students are dealing with, or more than you're usually used to, dealing with mental health issues and issues with prioritizing and whatnot. And so I think being able to do those early interventions and say, what is the problem? How can I help you? One student, their computer broke, and we were able to get them hooked up with a virtual machine because their whatever they had couldn't do visible body. So we got them hooked onto a virtual machine so they could use a virtual machine that was on campus, even though they were remote. And it allows me to intervene. Usually these don't take so long to load. This one's probably mad at me because it's expired. But this one is just basic urinary anatomy. So select the bladder. And if they go ahead and select it and submit, oh, it tells me incorrect because I selected the uterus. That happens all the time with students. And this is what I like, is they get that immediate feedback, and you can set your knowledge checks to do that. My knowledge checks are set to give them feedback after every question, and then after the end of the quiz, you can also set it up so that it's just at the end. All right, now we'll really select the bladder. Oh, I didn't. All right, try again. There we go. Oh, third time's the charm. And so that's where I get a couple tries to get these right, which frankly, I really like for the students. I don't know why it's asking me to select the bladder again, but I'm just going to keep selecting the bladder. I probably have it in there twice. Select any part of the kidney. And then the ureters, right? And this is always, I tease my students, I say, you need to know your ureter from your urethra, all right? You don't know your ureter from your urethra, from your uterus, you've got an issue. What I like about this is it's 3D, so, you know, we can put whatever we want in there. All right, so right now, because I gave myself multiple tries, even though I screwed up the bladder thing, it gave me a perfect score. But these are really like a formative assessment. It's, if you don't know what's there, then you're gonna need to brush up. Some of them are dissection quizzes. That's what you just saw, where I can rotate it around. Sometimes they have to take parts out. Some of them are multiple choice. In the past, I've done short answer as well. I kind of, for these, I want them to have immediate feedback and not be waiting for me to grade it. So I really like the short answer and the multiple choice. Once you get into, so those are just 4 or 5 questions. Once you get into the end quiz is usually about 10 to 15 questions. And I usually work with about a 30 question pool. And that just helps you to avoid cheating. That way they're not just memorizing the questions, they're actually trying to learn the material, and they may realize like, oh, I don't know it as well as I thought I did. So maybe I need to take this again. So there you go. One thing that I have done, and we'll go to my D2L page. So I've got my unit outline on D2L as well. In an ideal world, I would not run, can you use visible body in an LMS? Yes. The problem I've had is actually that, so I work for the state, and the state said no. Why did the state say no? I'm not 100% sure. I've never really gotten a clear answer about that, but they said, no, we're not going to integrate it. And I said, fine. Okay, so what I do is the students use both websites, and I'll show you, I've got like a little trick that I use on my LMS to make sure that they can find it, because you don't want, I don't like excuses, and I don't really put up with them. So really quick though, one of the things I put on the LMS is this checklist function. And I am a huge fan of the checklist functions. It turned out the students love it too, because who doesn't love to like check off something when you're done with it? So these have suggested deadlines. I gave them suggested deadlines because, again, it helped them to stay on track. But then they're able to check these off as they do them. And I even had quizzes in there as well. And then when they had labs due, there were labs in there that they could check off. So it just kind of gave them an idea of, here's what you're supposed to be doing. And every time we would meet, I would talk about, by the next time we meet, you should have this stuff done. Now, this was like in the spring, so obviously I had to be very understanding. For the LMS integration, I think that's something Emily can answer more questions about, but my understanding is that there's this thing that they deploy, and it allows everything to go into your grade book and all of that. But I sadly was not allowed to do that. So one thing I have done, and this is another just like helpful trick, hint, is under my, I found out this from the university. Now, this is not something they told us in faculty orientation, and I found out from someone just randomly, and I've been using it ever since. So over here, you can see my contact information, and on my contact information, I was able to put in a link, and the link takes them straight to our courseware page. I like that, because then they know exactly where they need to go at the beginning of the semester. When you're getting them set up, they know where they go to sign up for courseware. In fact, if they click that link, they don't have a courseware account, it gives them a courseware account. Okay, I'll show you. I wrote myself notes. Am I looking at them while I'm talking to you? No, that never happens. I don't know why. So there are a couple other things that I did. I did add, when I started using visible body, I noticed, so I just stopped using PowerPoint at some point. I just said, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to deal with the slides. I'm going to project these 3D things, and we're going to talk about it while we dissect it. I love this, because now the students aren't getting that static PowerPoint, which is such a crutch for them, and they're actually asking questions. And as an instructor, I just feel freer. It was terrifying at first, but now I feel just so much more open and free to teach the way that I want to teach and to talk about the material. But I noticed the students were having problems keeping up with me because they were trying to draw structures as I was talking about them. That doesn't work, right? So I added in images, and what these are is literally, I screen captured pictures of the diagrams that I'd be showing as I was lecturing. And this way the students have, it's sort of like preloaded paper that they can write their notes on. And if they want to like draw little arrows and draw things in, they can do that. So I would highly recommend that. There we go. And I also found out really quickly that you can, through the LMS, you can usually add quizzes on your videos. And so it's a non-visible body thing, but it's something I found really helpful because I could tell who was watching the lectures. Emily, do you want to take over the microphone for a minute and talk about integration, since that's an interest at the moment?
Sure, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
No
I will.
problem.
Yeah, I'll answer the LMS integration question. So right now, we do not have a direct grade sync with any LMS. So meaning it is a manual process to take the grade book from Visible Body courseware and export it and import it into your LMS. It's a very simple process. So the gradebook is, you can export it, the CSV is ready for whichever LMS you have, and that works very well. But we are working on deeper integrations with all of the LMSs. So right now we have just finished a light integration for Canvas, which allows for single sign-on so that students, they don't have to remember another username and password. And then we're working on the other LMS integrations this year.
Cool.
That's it.
Still jealous I don't have that. I should try again. Stupid state. Oh, it says no.
Right, no single sign-on for D2L right now, but could be coming soon. So we definitely hear you on the need. Absolutely.
I've been lucky. The students haven't, they haven't gotten too bucky about having to look at 2 sites, but I think the checklist helps them because it's like, okay, these are the things you need to get from Visible Body. And the nice thing about courseware is you can put other links in. So I'm trying to think of a unit where I do this. I redesigned my course a little bit ago, but I do occasionally put in little links out to other things that I have that may be useful for them. Oh, Endocrine, that's where we do one. So for Endocrine, there's this awesome simulation called Bioman Bio. It's a great website, and they do Endocrine Ed, and Endocrine Ed just teaches about homeostasis. So I can link to that. So theoretically, you could maintain everything through through courseware instead of your LMS if you wanted to. I haven't been doing things that way because I don't know, a masochist or something. But yeah, so there we go. One thing that I do want to kind of put a shout out for: when you're using Visible Body, you're using software, right? And when you're using software, you got to make sure that they know what they're doing and how to do stuff. So my very first lab, and I do it for sensory systems, is through Visible Body. And the assignments are things like, circle this structure and put a tag on it. And it gets them to learn what the functions of the apps are and which app would you use for this and which app would you use for this, just to kind of get them to work through it and make sure that they can use it and they're signed up for it. So for my course, it was not asynchronous. I did a synchronous meeting once a week where we would meet over Zoom. We'd answer questions, talk about whatever. But the students were on their own for the rest of the time. So that's why, again, the checklist, just have everything there. Would I share? Oh, the how-to assignment, yes. I should be able to share that. I'll see if I can do it. I can have Emily, I think, send it out to you guys. It's a really simple assignment, but it's literally like, circle the structure that does this. And it's just simple. But my goal is to get them, understanding what they need to do. Okay, yeah, I'll send it to Emily because for whatever reason I'm not seeing it on my D2L, which is, bad instructor, right? That's how we lose things. Yeah, so what I would say, what I'd say is make sure you have some kind of checklist. D2L, or not D2L, that courseware has due dates on it, so you can give them due dates. which is really nice because it tells them what's coming up and when. And it's, oh, I saw a question about questions. Oh, here we go. I'll answer those. I've got both question pages up now. So I lost where it was. It doesn't matter. Probably wasn't important. You'll find I'm very long-winded. So do you have a question? Oh, you want examples of the lectures? So these are goofy. Well, I spent a lot of time trying to be what I thought a professor should be. And then at some point, I think I lost my mind. And what I have done is kind of embody my craziness. So I would encourage everybody to do that, just like you are.
Yeah. Love it.
It's true. So I've got this the urinary video. And it helped me to work through a lot of the COVID upset. So these videos, I think the longest ones are about 12 minutes, but you'll see right here, I have put myself in a toilet for this video that the students watch because I did. And I actually, close the window, the neighbor started mowing. I have a green screen right here that I can use to do these effects. But if we were to go through this video, and it says, hey, you're gonna have a quiz, because you can do that. By the way, ask your tech people, and they will say, oh yeah, you can do that. Not many people talk about what goes on in here, but that doesn't mean it's not important. When you are creating urine, your body is filtering out things it doesn't need. Basically, it's getting rid of excess electrolytes and excess fluid. And then here, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. One thing I do is, you can see here, I'm talking and I've got the visible body model, and I'm actually actively interacting with it. Whatever comes out of the nephron becomes urine. And this is going to move through that renal pyramid to the renal calyx. These are split into major and minor calyces. The minors come together at a major calyx. And then this is going to empty into the renal pelvis, which ultimately empties into the ureter. From there, the urine continues down the ureters using. So this has been really fun. So I record these, I'm learning new ways to record, and I'm actually writing a guide for instructors right now about how to record video. But the big thing is, I used my green screen behind me to subtract out basically my messy office, right? Because I don't want people to know what a mess I am. And then I used Camtasia, which is a for purchase video software. And I was able to overlay the images from visible body and images from a digital whiteboard I was using. So it wasn't actively projected behind me. In fact, I did a couple where I was like full on Vanna White, like I could not see what I was doing, but I was moving my arms around and I was able to kind of get things in the right place. So with Camtasia, what you can do is you can overlay two videos, and if you've got a solid color behind you, so green, you can subtract out anything green and it will automatically remove it. Now, there are other softwares that do this too, that are free or cheaper or whatever, but Camtasia turned out to be the one I have. If you do want to make video, and I would recommend it, it is a blast. And the cool thing about visible body is I feel like the videos have lasting power. Like, they're cool enough that I'm not, you know, horrifically embarrassed to have them out there. I do have a YouTube channel now with these. You should think of, whoops. Ah! I was trying to hold up my microphone. And to show you guys my microphone. Unplugged it.
I love it.
So I'm a big fan of microphones from Blue, and it's amazing. Like, over a camera, my husband and I had this whole debate, camera or microphone, and I went for the microphone. I love it. I've used it for a couple of years now to record me in class so that I can play, you know, have the recording sent to the students, and they love that. So the nice thing about the microphone is you get like really great sound quality. For me, it also subtracts out some of the background crap. And I can do a little bit more on Camtasia. Mine, I have them from Blue. So there's a company called Blue Microphones, and they make, my really nice one is the Yeti, which is a $100 microphone, but a friend of mine is a podcaster, and he said it outperforms the ones he has that are a couple $1,000s. And then I also have this little one called a Blue Snowball. This is the Snowball. And the Snowball is really, really good as well. And it's between $40 and $60. So it's a cheaper one. And, you know, if you're using a video camera, like an external camera, not the one that came with your computer, okay, those actually have pretty decent microphones. So you may not need an external one. I did not use a external camera. I actually have one here. The Logitech ones are fabulous, but here's the deal. It's COVID time. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on my appearance, and the crummy camera that came with my Mac makes me have like a nice healthy looking haze. So it's purely aesthetic. I decided against the camera. The camera. So this is a Logitech, I think C920, really nice one. And it's, you know, maybe $100. I was able to get a grant from my institution to do this. For the whiteboarding software, similar thing. I have an iPad, and I use my iPad, and I write on my iPad, and then what you see on the videos is what I've been writing. The big trick of it all is that you have to record the audio first, because if you record the audio and then you're doing something while recording the audio, you're going to notice you're slower when you do things. It's patting your head and rubbing your tummy. Oh my goodness, so many questions. My iPad, I use this, there's this great app called Linnea, and I've been using Linnea, which it's for drawing, but I find it works great for lecturing, and it's really inexpensive. And it can also record like time-lapse footage. So if you're, or not time, well, it can do time-lapse, but it can also record a video of what you're writing. So if you're a whiteboarder, you whiteboard, and then it records that. To differentiate from lab and lecture, my students have lab activities, and then we have the lecture. So the lecture is the video, right? Then the lab, usually what I'll say is it's a lab. I keep everything in the same bin. I try to have like a urinary bin, all right? And the reason I have that urinary bin is so that all the stuff for urinary is together, and then they'll know if they missed something. The, oh, still seeing the anatomy picture. Let's put this here.
Yeah, and I've been, just so you know, Cindy, you don't have to, it's great that we're doing this Q&A on the chat too, but I'm writing down any questions that we can, you know, take when we get to Q&A. So don't worry about keeping up with the chat. I'm doing that. And yeah, if there are any other questions about, this is a great conversation about the video, because it's definitely comes up in every single one of these, you know, so this is awesome.
It's really fun, you know, and having visible body there, I feel like I can do just off the wall creative stuff, and then it looks really, you know, professional, which is kind of what you want, right?
Yeah. And you're using Atlas, right? Was that Atlas that you?
So sometimes what I do, I have a little cheat. Sometimes I use the videos from animations or from A&P, and I record my own voiceover.
That's a great suggestion that way, because they're already done. The video part is already done. So it just kind of takes a little bit of the work away of having to put all the images together. So I don't know if you want to show one of those animations are an example of that, because
Oh,
those are done.
think of an, I think I have one for urine creation, but it's nice just because then you can you can put your own audio in there. And I'm a control freak. I want it done the way I want it done. And I'll admit to that. Really quick, I did want to answer a question about labs. So let's see. I did a digestion lab and I just used the visible body one for this, I'll be honest, because I hit a point where I was just exhausted and I was like, I need to do something simple for myself. And this digestion lab then has a multiple choice quiz. These are pretty great. You can just, you can download them from the website, and they have a ton. In fact, I was so happy they came out with a reproductive one, because I was suffer through, how do you make a reproduction lab? That could land you in HR pretty quick, right? So these are great, and they can fill them out. And the nice thing is that what they turn into me is a multiple choice quiz that's based on these questions, and it's already written by Visible Body. So basically I get to pick the questions, they write the answers, and that's the grade they get, and it's auto graded. And I'm kind of loving auto grading. You can click on it to see what the student answered if you notice problems, and then you can kind of get in with your class and work on that. So I've used some of those. I do have some other labs where, to be honest, I make a lot of handouts, and I'll have them work through some simulation or something and answer a couple questions for me. I'm very old school, very paper oriented. So let me go to assignments. Ha ha ha. Got all these crazy labs. Oh, I don't want to look at submissions. I want to look at the lab. That could be awkward. Oh my goodness. So I'm on sabbatical right now. And so some of the things that you're seeing are a little bit of sabbatical brain going on right now, which is, by the way, the best thing ever. So courseware, it has the 5 apps, but you choose what you assign. So if you just want to do anatomy and you just want to do Atlas, do Atlas. What I find with Atlas is I find that students often have issues figuring out what to do once they get in there. So I always like to give them some tasks. I'm opening up, hopefully right now, my respiratory virtual lab. It's just going to take a minute. Oh, here it is. Haha. And what I do for this one is a mix of the FETs from University of Colorado, because in my heart, I am a physiologist. And that's just, it's who I am. It's, we always joke about A and P, right? There's big A, little p, little a, big P. I'm a little a, big P person. I like a lot of physiology. So here they go to this simulation. And all it does is it teaches them about Boyle's law. It's just gases. So they're like putting gas into a container and looking at what happens to pressure. And so we've got lots of questions. And then it's, hey, go to visible body and figure out what the role of the pleura is. So I can point at the apps and say, go there, and now relate this to the anatomy. And then I've got another one that's the journey of gases. And I use this one instead of visible body, to be honest, because it was a quick thing. It was a game that kind of walked them through it. And it was very easy to say, okay, you have to do this till you get 100%. And then, use visible body and this game to diagram the flow of air. Do they have to use visible body technically for this question? No, they could probably Google it. But your hope is that your students are going to be more involved in that. So this is an example of one that I've made, but again, the ones through Visible Body I think are really usable. They're not like those crummy spiral bound notebooks you get that are just pictures of cadavers that are terrible. They're actually interactive and lovely. So the auto-graded results end up straight in the gradebook. And if you had LMS integration, it would go to your LMS. I end up just auto-entering the grades, which may sound kind of weird, but the nice thing about sort of having that intervention is if I notice someone missed a quiz, I can say, hey, Susie, you missed a quiz. What's up? And it allows me to kind of interface with the student, and if they are having, you know, some stress, I can kind of get in there and I can give them a pep talk or whatever I need to do to try to get them back on track. So it allows me to do some, you know, what we'd say is good practices for like retention there. So now my course, I realized with this differentiating lab from lecture, my course is integrated. The lab is a 0 credit and their lab grade goes into their course grade. So if you had a separate lab course, then you'd probably want things to be a little more separate. I'm very fortunate. I like the integrated because then I can co-opt lab time if I need to, or I can use lecture time for some lab activities. So there you go. And if you wanted, you know, some of the labs I've written, you can always email, and I love sharing. I don't know that I think that they're like the best thing ever, but I love to share. And I'm totally willing to do that. So let's see. Oh, the how-to assignment. Let me stop screen sharing for a second and I'll see if I can find that how-to. Because that's a good one. And I just feel like it's good to see, but I've got a lot of crud in here at the moment, and I don't want to accidentally show something I shouldn't show. Here we go. Take home lab 121. That's that one.
And yeah, just keep, I don't know, Cindy, if you're ready to do purely Q&A at this point, I can
Oh, sure.
unmute people too. Be nice. Are you ready for that, or did you want to, you know, go a little bit further?
I'll show this and then, yeah, I'm completely ready.
Okay.
Oh, my contact email is just my name, cindy.harley, and Harley is spelled like the motorcycle, at metrostate.edu. I also have a, well, never, I have a Visible Body email address, but I don't remember. I think it's cindy.harley@visiblebody.com. Sometimes I use Cindy, sometimes I use Cynthia. It's a little bit of a problem. I tried to use it to be professional, but the truth is I only ever get called Cynthia at home when I'm in trouble. So it's, you know, difficult for me. Now there are some quiz questions in courseware, I believe, that are related to this lab. If they're not, you could totally make them. So I'm going to show you guys this, and then I would love it. We can open a Q&A, because that's the biggest help I can be to you right now, is just to answer specific questions instead of rambling.
Sure.
So here's my how-to Visible Body. So how do you select a structure? Once it's selected, what can you do? You know, I want them to know they can rotate it, they can fade it, they can hide it. What does the book icon do? What does the speaker icon? That's my students' favorite. I have a lot of international students and they love that speaker. And then how do you move the model around? Which apps have quizzes? Because they love using the quizzes on the apps to practice before they're ready for my quiz. And sometimes I do reuse questions, so I try to like capitalize on that a little bit. And then we use predominantly Atlas and A&P. And so I'll say, hey, in Atlas, what does microanatomy show? What's the media link? What are note cards? And in A&P, what's the checklist, how do you make favorites, and then I've got send your instructor an image with which uses the assigned features below to label these structures. So now I know that they can label. So there's this new, there's always something new with Visible Body. This is the greatest thing. But now what you're able to do, and this is kind of like what, I guess what I would do, lecturing with this now, is you're able to create tours that are editable. So I have created a tour for you guys. If I can share it really quick. I'm gonna have to stop and then move you guys to my iPad. By the cable. Let's see if this works. Oh, it might not. Okay, there's more than one way to skin this cat. We'll try it this way. I don't know. Are you guys seeing my iPad? Little guy moving around?
Sorry, I'm muted. It says started screen sharing, so it should be coming.
Okay.
Sometimes it just takes a minute.
Yeah, I never do it direct from the iPad. I usually use QuickTime. Again, just being like old school with how I share things. And I thought, oh, I'll do something different this time. And that's always...
Let's see, so you're using the cord?
Yeah.
Did you choose the iPad option when you...
Oh, here we go, trust. Haha.
Oh, the iTunes. That happened to me the other day. It's like tight security.
Right?
Yeah.
Why isn't it working?
Yeah.
All right. So now are you seeing the anatomical model?
Not yet.
Not yet? All right. Well, I'll get my backup method of doing this.
No problem.
Rocking and rolling really quick.
While you're doing that, I'll just point out, I did post a link to the pre-made courses. So we have Cindy's courses that are pre-made, and we have several on our website. So these are great because the content's already built, the assignments are already built, and we are here to help you. So we can help you publish these assignments and really help it all make sense for you. So just contact us, either me, and I'll get you in touch with your rep, fill out one of our forms. We will help you get started with a course.
Excellent. All right, now even my backup way of doing this is not working. This is not good. Oh, resume share?
Something's happening.
Oh!
There you go. Yep.
Oh, can you see an anatomical model?
Not a model yet. It's just, this is like settings. So it might just take a minute.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, either way, so now you can make tours. And I made you guys a tour this morning. So I was like, I want to show them the new tours function. And what you do is you can pick a series of anatomical models, or you can kind of dissect something in series. Then you can lecture from it. And this is cool. And you can put little labels in, you can do all sorts of stuff. And then because it's editable, you can strip it out later. So I'm really liking the new functionality. One thing I will mention, if you look at my previously made course, I said I'd teach lessons learned, okay? One of my lessons learned is that course is very dense. And so what I run now is a much lighter version of it. Now the students have, maybe 4 little things they have to do before they have a quiz. And that other one was very much a kitchen sink version. So if you look at it and it's a lot, that's okay. This is me telling you, cut down on the amount of stuff. But what I think is really going to be helpful is those guided notes. And those are just really easy to use. So yeah, the virtual whiteboard is Linnea Sketch. All right. I don't think we're going to see my tour. I could hold it up here, but basically, you've got one.
Yeah, that works. We can see.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And then, we can zoom in and we can say, oh, here's blood flow. And then we can talk about microstructures of the kidney. And then or the inside of the kidney, and then we can go to the nephron, and then we can go to parts of the nephron. So you can set these up ahead of time. And then if you want to lecture from it and you just plug her into Zoom, lecture from it, and you're showing them the models and it's already like pre-built, which is really nice because then you're not umming and erring and trying to find exactly the right asset. So that's a little lesson from Cindyville for you. To just, I don't know, make it a little bit helpful.
Great. I was just answering the question about pre-made courses. So yes, we've got lots. So yes, all you need to pre-made, it just means the assignments are already built. So that assignment path that Cindy was showing with, you know, the learning assets and then the knowledge check. So her knowledge check is a quiz. So we have all of that content ready to go. And the wonderful thing is that we have many of these courses, and we have many that are already correlated to the table of contents of pretty much all the major textbooks out there and lab manuals. So if you're using the Marib lab manual, we have a course in courseware that correlates to that flow of topics.
Yeah, so if you look, well, I could probably share this out to you as well.
And yes, you can do a tour on the computer. So and that's another great point. A lot of really within the apps themselves, the same functionality exists on the computer as it does in the mobile app. And that's a great feature of Visible Body that, you know, whether the student's on an iPad, a phone, or on the computer, the user interface of Atlas and any of the other apps is exactly the same.
Yeah, so this is actually the sample course as is that you would get. You saw my new version of Urinary. This one's a little bit thicker. There's a little bit more for students to do, but you can edit it down. One thing I always recommend to people, oh, and it does come with a sample syllabus, and the sample syllabus has learning objectives for every single chapter. That was really important to me. One thing I always do when I build my courses out is I always have a little course, oh, apparently I don't always have it. I always have a little thing for the students that tells them about Visible Body and, you know, what are the keyboard controls and all that kind of stuff. So where is it? It's called Visible Body. Oh, I think it's in general. Yeah, Visible Body stuff. This is the Visible Body controls. This is the correlation guides. I don't use a textbook anymore, but the students sometimes are like, I want a textbook. And so I'm like, okay, here you go. Click on this link. It's a big old PDF, and it's going to show you how it correlates to any textbook you may have access to, including OpenStax, which is really cool. And you can just download this on their website. There's tons of cool stuff. There's even like little articles on the website that are really cool and fun to read. So yeah, it just correlates everything that they have with whatever textbook you want. The students love that, because then it's just easy, but make it explicit. And then I've got a little how-to sign up for courseware in here and how to register. So again, just trying to get around those like really basic issues. So yeah.
I'll call on a few people if that's all right. Get some,
yes, please,
a little bit of dialogue. Yeah. So hang on one second. I think somebody's got their hand raised. Let me go up to the top here. Elsa, I'm going to unmute you, and then you just need to unmute yourself on your end and go ahead and ask your question if you still have it. Sorry.
I do. I still do. Okay. I didn't know. I got lost in the letters. LMS. What is LMS?
Oh, learning management system. So it's your D2L or Canvas or Blackboard or Moodle.
Oh, we're on Blackboard. So that's our LMS. Okay. It
Yeah. Sorry, I always tell people that I work with too, I'm like, no more than one acronym per sentence. Because you get lost. But yeah.
Learning management systems. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Elsa? Well, we have you here.
Well, I'm interested on the lab when she was talking about some of those quizzes that she gave them at the beginning. I thought I need to do those myself, so I know how to
Yeah.
to maneuver.
And
So,
they have these pre and post lab
I
quizzes.
took a couple of pictures of what you had up there because I figured I better, then I'll try to do them myself because I wasn't sure
Like I
about
said,
what it was.
reach out and contact me with any questions, and I can send you.
Okay, Cindy
I can
Harley,
send you
Harley
stuff.
at metrostate.edu, right? I did write that down.
And feel free to contact me as well. I manage the education team here at Visible Body. We are a team of 11.
And you're Emily?
Yep,
Emily.
I'm Emily. Yep, so you can email me. I'll put my email in the chat. Or
Okay.
any of the forms on our website. I know sometimes you fill out a form on the website and you think like, oh, it's going to be days. We are extremely responsive. So if you fill out a form on our website, you will be contacted by your personal rep within 24 hours. And the other thing I want to mention, we do offer great training. So if you adopt Visible Body, we will train you. We'll set you up with a one-on-one training session with our trainer and really go at whatever pace you want to learn.
We have selected it, and I did have some, and then I've been busy with all these other things for the summer school, and now I've got to get back to it, and I'm sort of overwhelmed. But
I
I
understand.
just take one little bite at a time, the way you eat an elephant. One little bite.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, Emily. Okay.
You're welcome.
In a way.
That's, I think, the way this whole thing is, right? So I tell myself, if I take it one system at a time, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do sensory, then I'm just a little bit, it's less of a whole course. It's like, okay, I'm going to do sensory. Now I'm going to do endocrine. Now I'm going to do, man, it's a lot.
Oh, ours are set up so that we have to do it a certain order. We start off with just general information about A&P, and then the tissues and glands and that sort of thing, and all the body systems in general. It's like from an atlas in our textbook, but now I'm going to be using Visible Body, and then skin, the tissues, and then we start with skeletal system, then the muscular system, nervous system, sense organs, and that's the end of the first semester. Then we start with everything else is the second semester.
That's, I never made it all the way to senses. That's why senses are in second semester. I just had too much. The muscles. I blame the muscles.
No, well, that's true. You have to leave off some of those muscles. I've got little stick figures that I follow, and they have to know the muscles for that particular action, arch insertion. But I just can't do them all.
Right. So this is this is like the first version of the first semester. I always start with anatomical terminology because it makes my life easier. This is not something that's built in Visible Body. This is sort of a Cindy thing. But this first lab is this massive scavenger hunt.
Okay.
And it's, what structure is anterior to the up, and, inferior, superior, whatever it is.
That sounds clever.
And they can use the app. So we've now adapted it so that they have to use Visible Body. So again, it's that first lab where they have to use it. But I don't know if this version's there, but it's really nice. And I spend about a week and a half teaching them terms. But what I find is that once they know their words, then by the time we get to bones and muscles, they're good to go. And the nerve plexuses, they're happy about that. It's from arm. What does that mean? Brachial.
Right. Well, do you spend a lot of time on the cell in this anatomy class, or because our general biology classes cover the cell? I just usually hit that pretty lightly and move on.
What we did, I found that I was teaching a lot of chemistry poorly. And it was because all the acids and bases and all that stuff was put into A&P. And I was like, that's stupid. I'm a biologist. Let me teach about cells. So our prereq is a chemistry course. So that, again, the nice thing about this is if you wanted to get rid of some of this stuff, what you could do is you just click on an assignment and you edit it and you take out whatever it is that you're like, nah, they've already had that. So if you want to get rid of all the cell stuff, you can do it. It's really modular. And I think that's a real strength here, because I know sometimes you get into simulations, like I've used PhysioX, and I love PhysioX. I really do enjoy it, but it's not modular. I can't change what it says. And that makes it a lot less useful for me. And it makes it a lot less intuitive to the students because it's not the way we've talked about something. So, yeah, so I would put that there. But, and I always keep versions of my courses. This is terrible. So this is like what I see when I sign in, which is pretty bad, but I can't throw anything out. It's just, it's a personal thing. I'm a digital hoarder. There is this Welcome to Visible Body courseware thing. This is from them, and it's got, you know, videos and their support site system requirements, that kind of stuff. And then there are course instructor resources that you can download and whatnot. I have taught human bio using visible bodies, so the sort of like A&P Junior, if you want to think about it like that. I've done that one using this.
Now, is this for maybe a nursing school, people going into nursing or medicine or biology majors?
I'm working with pre-nurses.
Okay.
My bio majors course, I do a comparative. Okay. And we're looking at sort of opting into visible body for comparative. So I did have one question about, you know, can you show me the whole urinary module? And that was like a bit ago. And I was like, oh, I got to work that in. This is the whole urinary module. So these are the 4 chapters on urinary. Mm-hmm. And then if they were to click this chapter, it would lead them through like the whole chapter, like what you'd see in Atlas, or not Atlas, A&P.
Okay, we do that the second semester, right?
Yeah, so long story short, we got too big, and now I've got a different person who does first semester, so I haven't done first semester in, it's been a bit. But I'm more of a second semester person anyways. I like squishy guts. Yeah. And she was a bone person, so I was like, you do bones, I'll do squishy stuff. So
can you tell me again how you did when you did several pictures that you were tracing through? You said it was a little tour. How do you go into the virtual visible body and then do a screenshot and then put it together?
Oh, so for the notes that I have for my students, I just did screenshots and I just put them all together. But the better way to do it now, because I mean, this is new functionality as of a week ago, maybe, is anytime you're using the app and you're looking at something, you can make it a favorite. So you star it, and then you can take your favorites and you make a tour. So it's a series, and you can share that series with your class. And so you could share, here's all the stuff we're going to go through, and there's a note function, so they could type in notes if they wanted to. I still like to give them some static images, and I did just, you know, I did screenshots, and it seemed cumbersome at first, but you know, the screenshots and the videos, once you get them done, they're done, and then you can kind of just keep recycling them. So it's work up front, but then it kind of comes off of you later. And I find one of the places it comes off is I don't have as many students at office hours because they love the tutorials, and they're allowed to elect for me to do tutorials. So they can like nominate something to be a movie, and then I'll make a new movie. Yeah, so now the students can share their favorites and tours too, right, Emily? Or is this?
It's coming. So I think you might have a beta version, but it is definitely coming. I think early fall, students will be able to share favorites, and really anybody can go to town customizing a view. So building model up, like Cindy draws, you can do all of that and directly share it with the students.
So much fun.
Yeah, this has been
so
requested
cool.
for a while.
And you can share your courses among instructors. So say there are a lot of you at an institution. And I do this a lot too. I have instructor friends who, you know, maybe they work as an adjunct with us and they get that faculty position. If you just drop down here, I could delete my course. I don't want to do that. No, but I can send a copy, and I send the copy off to that person, and then it takes out the grade book information, but now they have all my modules in the order that I put them in and all the material. And then let's say I'm going to go to like some ancient Cindy here. we'll go to fall 2019. And in fall 2019, I used to do these like practice quizzes that I'd give them. But let's say I'm like, I don't want to do that. If you just go to the folder and you do delete, it's going to go away. And I can delete that folder and all of its assignments.
Can you go back and get it later if you want to? Or is it gone?
I think it's gone.
Okay.
What I will say is that like if the assignments are quizzes, those will be in your quiz bank, I believe. I don't, like I said, I don't do a lot of deleting. I'm always too scared.
No.
But you can delete that, or let's say there's like part of an assignment that you want to, unused modules apparently, which I kept this in draft form. The reason it's a draft is I didn't want the students to see it as I was like mucking around with stuff, but I wanted it in my course. And you can always do that if it's not published. Basically, if it's got this little dealy-do here, and it's not published, then they're not going to see it.
Okay, but you could go back and work on it and then publish it when you want to.
Exactly. And then the other thing I can do is I can delete it. If I'm like, nah, I don't like this, I can delete it. I always try to add a little description with learning objectives. But let's say, well, okay, we're not going to do labeled lines. I can delete that out and I can change this text any way I want, change the deadlines, whatever I want to change. Are my exams in visible body? Ooh. So with the exams, what I ended up doing is I made the labeling portion visible body, and the rest of it, let me take you.
So do the students take the exams online or they do it in class?
So what I did when I was remote, right, because then they can't take it in class and I can't like depend on them being free at a specific time, I gave them, I think 48 hours. I started giving them more time because I was just like, whatever, to finish the exam. Part of the exam is labeling, and the labeling, you can do those dissections and you can make it, click on the structure that does this, or you can write your own questions.
Okay.
So that's the way my labeling was. And I really like that because it really forces them to dissect down to something, which is something that makes visible body really unique. For the rest of the exam, because that was only a portion of it, I actually set it up like an assignment.
Okay, but so do you have class students to come in-house at all, or is everything online?
We were in-house until COVID.
Okay.
And now we're doing completely remote.
Okay.
And our,
We're gonna be
yeah, we're remote for the time being, right?
Okay.
Which is
Got it.
frustrating. And you always think of it and you're like, what am I losing? But what we found is that we're actually able to maintain a reasonable course, and a lot of the framework that we're putting in play, even when we open back up, we go back in person, it's going to allow us, we're looking at a hybrid now, which I think is going to be great because I work with working adults, and it's hard for them to be everywhere, yeah, and deal with kids and every other thing. So this is what the rest of my exam went like, and this is like 70% of it, I think.
So is your exam discussion, or is it multiple choice, or what?
So I do essay.
Oh,
I'm glutton for punishment.
Oh, okay.
But
Cheat that way.
yeah, it's a lot. But I did essays like this of describe the portal system and how it works, and then I came up with some wackier questions that are more harder to Google. So some of them were like, hey, there's this, I had a couple about COVID actually, where I was like, before
in other words, they had to use critical thinking. They had to think. Yeah,
and so I did a lot of critical thinking type stuff. One thing that I think would be really cool, so I started writing this guide for instructors for how to make videos. And I started thinking, what if I, instead of doing this thing about how to make videos just for instructors, what if I wrote one for students too? And what if your students could submit a video to you? So one thing we have available through Metro State is we have VoiceThread. And VoiceThread allows students to record little webcam videos of them talking. And you can kind of create an asynchronous conversation. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be fun? So it's something I really want to look into. What we did do is one of their assignments, and they have these due at every exam, is they have to discuss a pathology. So they can pick one, but it must be on one of the systems that's on the exam. So if the exam is like respiratory, digestive, urinary, they have to pick one of those three. And then they have to talk about their pathology, why it's a problem, how it's treated, and basically get into the nitty-gritty of the anatomy and physiology of it. But the trick is I make them do it at the layperson level. And so they have to learn how to do that for people who are non-scientists. And it's been really cool. It's one of my favorite assignments that I do. And I think the students get a lot out of it, even though it's not the most difficult, horrible thing. And it turns out our nursing program does the same thing. So it turns out they get like a little practice from me. And then when they go to further, like the upper division nursing classes, they have the same assignment, basically.
How many exams do you usually have during the semester?
So I usually do about 48.
Big exams or just little?
Oh, students, sorry. Exams, I thought you said how many students. Exams, I have 3.
Well, that's still, if you've got 48 students, that's a lot of discussion to read.
It's a lot to read, but you get used to it. And one thing I've started doing is like having them model or diagram something, because I can look at a picture pretty quick and say, oh, yes, you're on base. No, you are not. And what I did with visible body is I did a labeling portion that was basically a little less than a third of the exam, probably about somewhere between like 25% and a third.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's all auto-graded. You could do multiple choice that way too. And that would be really good. Could pathology be done as a group? Of course. And have them send you, we did some narrated PowerPoints where they sent me narrated PowerPoints. You can do that. You can have them record it in Zoom and send it to you. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with the pathologies. And one thing you can do, so visible body, right? You can click on the stethoscope icon. Stethoscope icon's got pathologies. So they have a way to find them very easily. But you could even assign pathology videos or something like that. And you could work with the students. But when they have to explain how something breaks, they do a really good job of figuring out how it works. And you can you can tell who knows what they're talking about and who doesn't.
Awesome. We have Nicole's got her hand raised, so I'm going to move over to Nicole.
I'll lower my hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was very helpful. That was very helpful.
Yeah.
It was great to meet you, Elsa.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nicole. I don't know if you still have your question.
Yes, this was great. Thank you so much, Cindy and Emily. This is really helpful and informative. A couple of questions. So your course is A&P 1 and 2. Our courses are arranged. We're in the kinesiology department, so we have anatomy in one semester and physiology in the other semester. And last semester I used just visible body for the anatomy class, but I've been scared to switch over for the physiology because I didn't know if there was enough content available to just use visible body for physiology and not use a textbook anymore. Do you find that there is enough information for both?
I find that's definitely a weakness, but I also find it's a place where I can supplement, and so I do a lot of supplementing with other simulations and things to kind of help them work through it. So it can be done, and it can be done, and I do think, if you're really worried, what you could do is use like, a physiology text, but you could do like an OpenStax or something, or you could track it from that pathology. Now they've got this PathoPhys app, and if you have not played with the PathoPhys app, you got to play with PathoPhys app. One of the things on there is a beating heart,
Oh,
And it's got the blood flow, it's got the valves opening, it's got the electrical. And so you could have the students work through that and recreate a Wiggers diagram just by looking at this thing,
that's
which
awesome.
is really cool. So it kind of depends how you want to teach it. I supplement a little for lab, but for the most part, a lot of what they do is in the apps. I don't give them supplemental readings.
Okay.
I will add stuff in the videos. I do, say, oh, this isn't in the app, but you should look at this. And I will say the one unit that I have the hardest time with is reproduction and development. It's a little on the lighter side.
Okay.
But I also find at that point in the course that I am so crazy like behind that it's an easy place to go a little lighter. And it's also a fun place where you can find a lot of materials. So we read a lot about contraception and talk about contraception and endocrine and that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's fantastic. And then my last question is, in the ready-made sample courses, have things updated a little more with more online emphasis because of COVID? And if so, like, which ones do you recommend looking at to kind of beef up the online side of teaching A&P?
So that's more of an Emily question. Oh, and I'm betting that there is an A and P separate sample course already existing. One thing I will say is that they've been coming out with a lot of labs. And they're labs that the students can do at home or with the apps. So I've been noticing that, and that's been great. Emily, what comment do you have on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the labs, one update to the labs that, the PDFs are, excuse the wrong term, but fill outable. So the student can actually fill them out electronically and submit them to you. And they're not auto graded yet, but the key word being yet. So the team is working on some more activities that can be auto graded, lab activities that can be auto graded in courseware. And yes, the courses are constantly being updated just as we come out with new content.
Yeah, there's so much more than there was, when I started.
Yeah, it's fast. A lot of new things coming, and we have by I think like mid-fall we'll have a lot more content added to the quiz bank. Including more models that you can quiz with. You can create your own quizzes. We'll have more like 2,000 new questions added. So there's a lot on deck coming.
And creating your own quizzes is fantastic. It's easy. And
it is.
Quiz bank, you can edit questions too. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I like where this is going, but I want it to be a little different. Yeah. You just edit it. And then you can share with other instructors, you can share with your friends your quiz bank so that you can just kind of keep building it. So I have some questions on there that I'm not sure exactly who they're from, but it's good.
Well,
yeah, and it is easy. It really is. The platform is designed to be pretty simple, so that you can spend your time on content and not learning technology. So, and again, I'll throw it out there again. We are always here to help. So just, give us a shout. We'll set up a training session, answer questions over email, whatever works for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. So are there any other questions? I hope we got to everybody, but feel free to post any last questions in the chat or raise your hand before we wrap up.
That was very informative. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for your time. This is a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Cindy, for doing this. It's a great service.
It's fun and fun to talk about what I do. So
yeah, those videos are amazing.
Where are you located?
Me? I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and if you want to see more of the videos, they're on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's my personal YouTube channel, which is
So where would we
I never
go?
thought I would do that.
Cindy Harley?
I think they're under Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Because I go back and forth, but
You got to be professional.
they're over there, and I did a series for Bio 1 and then a series for A&P. And I'm trying to add more. I'm trying to add one for instructors about how to make movies and one for students about how to make movies. So that's like on my summer, my summer projects. Oh, a new adoptee. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
It changes everything. It will reinvigorate you. There's nothing like being able to like talk while you dissect something and really show it to students. And the 3D, my favorite thing is showing them that hepatic portal system, because they're like, oh, it looks like the celiac trunk. And then you rotate it and they see that it's not connected. And they're like, oh, but why isn't it connected? And, then you can work through there with them. It's awesome.
Okay. I'll check that out. Okay.
It's fun, right?
Yeah. All right. Well,
Somebody
thank you.
else gets excited about it. A&P. Okay.
I wasn't until I started using Visible Body. I actually was trying to get out of teaching it. And then I started using Visible Body and I was like, okay, this is the most fun I have ever had teaching. And they said, would you do it every semester? And I said, sure. And, now we've got, I could pretty much fill my load with A&P if I wanted to, which is really cool. It's so much fun. Why? They've got a body. They can actually like practice at home. It's great.
That's great.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And, again, reach out to us if you need anything, any help, training. We're here to help. And thank you again so much, Cindy, for your time today. This was wonderful.
You are absolutely welcome. I am going to share the video link. Just I'll share the
perfect.
ordinary one, but you should be able to get to my channel from there. And then,
Okay.
I don't know if people are interested. This is my thesis advisor's favorite one and my son's because it involves a toilet.
I showed it to my kids at dinner once you showed it to me. I loved it. As you guys have
Wait. What are you talking about? Okay,
the one about the liver does have a bottle of wine involved in it.
Okay.
Oh, I can't show that in my school then. Okay.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. We will follow up, but feel free to reach out to us anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.